Welcome to you. My name's Dale and this is Dale's Addiction. Are you trying to find your first luxury bag and you just don't know where to start? Because it isn't that easy. Honestly, I've been talking to my neighbour and I've been listening to myself and what I'm saying about a process that should feel really wonderful and luxurious and exciting, but it just sounds like hard work every time I say, oh, be careful of this and have a think about that and let me know if you want me to do this. And I'm going, this does not sound like a luxury experience. And I thought it would be a great idea for a video because buying your first designer bag, or just buying designer bags in general, can be a really daunting experience. And I talk to a lot of you in my Instagram DMs who are considering maybe a first purchase from a particular design house or a first luxury purchase and just feeling a bit overwhelmed. So I'm going to focus this video on buying from the boutique, and then I'll do a follow-up video on buying pre-loved. And these are my opinions, my experience around what I think is helpful through the experience I've had helping coach other people with their first time buys, and advice that I'd give myself if I was going back and starting over again. So I've got 16 tips. I'm sure that's not the exhaustive list. If you've got more to add, please list them in the comments. But I'm trying to keep this short and snappy so it's not too overwhelming because, let's face it, buying your first designer bag is pretty overwhelming to start with, so let's try and keep it simple. So I'm going to be looking to the side because I've got a few things written down here. The first thing that you need to think about is, what do you want the bag for? Do you want it as a work bag? Do you want it for a casual bag, so on the weekends or for shopping? Do you want a day to night bag? Do you want something that, is really versatile, that you can dress up or remove a strap so you can use it as a clutch at nighttime, for example? Or do you want it as a special occasion bag? You might say that my Fendi sequin baguette might fall into that category, or, some people might wear that every day. Certainly, I feel like I could wear it every day, not that I will. But think about what you're going to use the bag for. A lot of people for their first designer bag will look at something for work because work is something they do every day, and a work bag can also be used for a bunch of other things. The second thing to think about is, how do you wear the bags that are currently in your wardrobe? Are you somebody that likes to wear a bag on the crook of your arm, for example? Are you somebody that likes to wear a bag on your shoulder? Do you want to top handle it? Do you want to clutch it under your arm? Would you like to wear it crossbody? You need to know how you wear the bags that you currently have, because when you buy your first designer bag, that is not the time to experiment with bags that you have to carry in a certain way that is probably not, second nature to you. The third tip that I have for you is to think about the kind of designs that you like. So there are pretty much a few staple designs in the luxury handbag, or any handbag realm for that matter. So the first kind of style is your classic tote style. So this would be a design. If you're after a tote, then it's pretty easy to go into, a luxury store and go and see their selection of totes. And then you want to know, is it a tote you want to be able to wear on your shoulder, on the crook of your arm, those sorts of things. Do you want a top handle style bag? So a bag that has a top handle. This is my Fendi Mini Peekaboo. It has a top handle, but it also has a removable strap that I can add and wear it on the shoulder or crossbody. So do you like a top handle design? Do you like a camera bag design? So a camera bag is generally this kind of silhouette. So they tend to be kind of round-edged rectangular shapes. They can usually fit a whole lot in them, and they're designed to be worn crossbody. You can also wear them on the shoulder, but a camera bag is a really classic style. And obviously the flap bag style. So this is my Chanel Denim 20B flap, but it is a flap. So any bag that kind of opens with a top flap, that's a flap bag style. So have a think about the type of designs that you like, and then you can narrow that down on your little checklist as well. Tip number 4, consider what materials that you want your bag made of, because there are a lot of different materials that bags come in, and remember, it's your first designer bag, or it might be your first bag from a particular house, so have a bit of a think. Some common materials, I'm not going to go into all of them, but some common materials that you might consider are coated canvas. Now, I'm going to show you 3 Louis Vuitton bags that are all discontinued, so you cannot buy them from the boutique. But coated canvas, if you weren't already familiar, has this kind of sheen to it, and it's, it looks like it's quite weather hardy. This is uncoated canvas, so it's literally a fabric bag. So they are both very different. So when you look for canvas, you need to say if you want coated canvas or uncoated canvas. This Gucci tote is also in a coated canvas as well. Well, this is not Gucci, it's Balenciaga, but it's based on the Gucci Ophidia. I'm going to assume that you're not going to go straight for like mink or wicker bags or sequin bags to start with. So a smooth leather, like this Valentino camera bag, or a pebbled leather, like this peekaboo in the Selleria style. So, having a bit of a think about the kind of aesthetic that you like really kind of helps you to narrow down the bag options that you're looking at. There are also nylon bags. Bags can pretty much be made out of anything, but I think for your first kind of bag, you're really looking at leathers and coated canvases primarily, and maybe even some uncoated canvases. Okay, number 5, you need to consider your style. Are you someone who tends to kind of dress in a more classic way, or are you flamboyant? Are you somewhere in between? The question you've got to answer is, do you want people to know that you're carrying a designer handbag? So, people can pick a Louis Vuitton monogram from a mile away. But if you were to wear a Fendi mini peekaboo like this, it wouldn't be really obvious unless the person or people really know Fendi, the brand, and the design of the bag. So you've got to pick something. There's no point going to a boutique, falling in love with something like this, when this is something that you would never wear, but you've fallen under the spell of the boutique lighting and fragrance. Look at my hair there. And you go, oh, I really love it. It's so beautiful. And then you spend money on something like this and you're not going to wear it. So know who you are and pop that on your little list of criteria, which you're going to use later to check off which bags that which bags that you want to go and have a look at. Tip number 6, what are the houses or the brands that you have an eye for that really appeal to you? If you go into a big shopping mall and you're going to look at every house for the first time, you're going to go and see Dior, and you're going to see YSL and Chanel and Louis Vuitton and Bottega Veneta and Balenciaga and Gucci. It's going to be so overwhelming for you. If you're watching this video, the chances are that you've probably been watching other videos like this, and so you've got an idea of the kind of aesthetic that you like. Nail that down as much as you can. Stick to 2 or 3 key houses and then apply the rest of the tips to those houses, the style, the materials. We've been through all that. Tip number 7, YouTube. Oh dear, YouTube. Look, take YouTube with a grain of salt. There are people on YouTube that are like me, that just do it as a bit of a hobby, who aren't here to sell you things. There are people on YouTube who do try and sell you things in a very authentic way, and there are people on YouTube who try and sell you things in an unauthentic way. I think there's a lot more consumerism happening. There's a lot of people getting swept up in trends and wanting to create new content. And I think the risk with that is you don't really know if they're even using the bag. Now, I've got about 30 odd bags in my collection. If I'm going to give you a wear and tear review on this bag, know that I've probably only worn it maybe 15 times since I've owned it. Whereas somebody who just has this bag and a couple of others would be able to give you a more realistic review on that bag over the course of a year. So that's what I'm saying. Like, YouTube can be a real problem, and if you rely too much on YouTube for reviews, then you'll probably find yourself unhappy with the purchase you've made. Now, I had a subscriber reply to my recent video on FOMO when I did the FOMO tag, and she summed up the whole risk associated with YouTube and taking not just YouTube but other people's opinions as gospel. So Brenda, thank you for sharing this comment. She said, FOMO definitely hit me when the LV bum bag craze happened. It was never available online here in Canada and could never even really see it in the stores. Somehow my husband contacted my SA and was able to find me one last Christmas. In the moment, I was so excited to get the big orange bag Christmas morning, and inside was the bum bag that I had dreamt about for what seemed like forever. The bag I'd seen posted so many times that everyone seemed to love in my purse groups. The bag that I had watched endless YouTube videos on. And yet, a few days later, I pulled out and went to use it and then realised how awkward it was to get in and out of. The zipper always seemed to hit the front lip. It looked enormous on me as I'm 5'1". Unfortunately, it led to an uncomfortable conversation with my husband, as I could not justify keeping a bag that I didn't see myself loving, even though it came from my husband. She ended up selling that bag on one of her purse groups and using those funds to purchase a bag that she really loved. But I think that's an example of how YouTube can be helpful, but it can also be a real hindrance. So just take it with a grain of salt. For me personally, I don't watch YouTube reviews, and I have made no secret of the fact that I don't like filming bag reviews. You guys keep telling me that you love them, and I will do them. I don't like doing it because I find them very tedious and boring, and I don't watch review videos because I don't care. It sounds bad, but I don't care what other people think, because I've got bags that are so impractical. I'll keep showing this one, but I've got some really impractical, stupid bags, but I love them and I'm prepared to put up with that. And it would be insincere of me to do a review on this bag saying how much I love it, and and then you buying it and going, oh my God, like, this is absurd. I can tell you how absurd it is, but because I love it so much, you'd still think it was great. And yeah, I just don't think that's fair. I've spent enough time on this point. We're starting to get serious now. Tip number 8, think about your budget. All right. Do you know what to expect? You just should not put yourself in a position where you go into a boutique and that's the first time that you hear what the price of the bag is. You should have a rough idea of what the prices are, and if you're in the States and you've got to add tax to that, like, that's the price. Don't whinge about it's the price plus tax. The whole thing, that's the price. That's the outlay. So you need to know what to expect. Now, I've got a few notes here that I just wanted to cover off on. Things to think about. Are you going to use the bag for that kind of money? A lot of people that buy their first designer bag, they shell out all that money, which makes them feel a little bit sick inside. And then they don't use it because they're paranoid about damaging it, or they don't feel comfortable. It's the first time they've had a bag that's that expensive, and so they walk around thinking everyone's going to think I'm a target because I'm carrying around this expensive bag. So even though you might be able to afford a certain bag, are you going to use that bag? Do you have some stretch in your budget? You could be the most organised, go into the boutique and there's something that just takes your breath away and you're like, I want that. And, it's not within your budget. I always think it's good to have at least $1,000 more in your budget. And I know it's a lot, but if you run into some seasonal bag that you love, it's not going to be there next time. So you have to be able to buy it at the time if that's what you want. So do you want the option, or are you going to be disciplined? Think about those things when you put your budget together. I think Connor mentioned in his Chanel price increase video that he was always told don't buy something unless you can buy it 3 times over. I think that's probably now a bit outdated advice because we have access to all of these kind of Afterpay and Klarna kind of options. We can buy on our credit cards and pay it back within 55 days and all those sorts of things. I'm not a financial advisor, but I'm going to say if you're setting a budget, it's a budget that means something to you, that you're comfortable with for spending on such an item. Make sure you've got some stretch in it. That's the summary of this tip. Right, so now you need to go try them. Tip number 9, if you can, go to a consignment store to try on the styles. If you don't know anyone with the bags that you have in your shortlist that you can try them on, then a consignment store is a really great way of kind of practicing handling your bags, because in the boutique they are wearing gloves and you go, oh, should I be touching it if I'm not wearing gloves? Yeah, you should touch it. That's what it's there for. But a consignment store is a little bit of a less, there's kind of less intimidation, I suppose. It's a good way to try on lots of different styles, things that you might not always be able to see in a boutique. You can handle things, you can have a look at the fabrics, the materials, you can see if it suits your frame. If you've got access to a luxury consignment store, go there and try the bags that you've shortlisted first. All right, tip number 10. Start up your SA relationship. Now, this probably means taking your place in the queue, or if you can, booking an appointment at your local boutique online, if you can do that. Otherwise, you're taking your place in the queue. Now, my tip here is that your sole purpose for this visit is to build a relationship with a sales associate. And so when you're in that queue and they say, what are you looking for? You can say, I'm looking to buy my first designer handbag and I'd like to meet with a sales associate so I can discuss what I'm looking at and, we can have a look at the options that are available. Once you get into the store, introduce yourself and say, be really, really clear, because then you're going to get, a really accurate vibe from the sales associate, which is, listen, I'm not planning to buy today. Today, I wanted to meet you. I wanted to talk about the bags that I'm thinking about. I wanted to understand what the likelihood of those being in stock is, what the wait lists are for those things, how difficult they are to obtain. Can I please get your number so that I can text you when I'm ready, and if you could let me know when these certain things are in store, and I think when you're really honest and transparent like that with a sales associate, and at least in my experience, they respond really well because they already know what to expect. And you are just like a little seed being watered, ready to grow into a brand new customer. So definitely go in with the view of building that relationship first. If you don't want to do it on your own, tip number 11, ask a friend to introduce you to their sales associate, or reach out to someone who's an acquaintance and ask if they can introduce you. In person is best, but if they send their sales associate a text and say, hey, do you mind if I share your details with a friend of mine? They're looking to buy their first luxury bag and I've recommended you highly. Would you be okay to help them? Now, that way you're giving the sales associate the heads up. And they can say yes, or, that's not really my thing. Once they say yes, then you can pass on their details to your friend, and then they've got the direct text to be able to set up an appointment with that sales associate, go and build the relationship before there's any pressure to shop. Okay, now we're on to buying the bag. So tip number 12, I'm going to try and fly through these. Clear out your credit card. You don't want to be there trying to transfer funds onto your credit card so that you can make a bag purchase. I buy bags on my credit card all the time because I like to get the points and then I pay the credit card back. But I think paying on credit card is good for a whole bunch of reasons, including insurance and what have you, but each to their own. Just make sure that you've got available funds, and remember what I said about budget, having a bit of a stretch in that budget too, because you're in a luxury boutique. Like, the last thing you want to be doing is trying to quickly transfer money from accounts to make sure that the sale goes through. Make an appointment when you are ready to buy and turn up on time. So this is tip number 13. Do not go and queue. Like, if you're ready to buy, you've done all of this research. You've thought about your style, you've thought about your budget, you've thought about the bag designs that you like, and then you just go and turn up and you queue for 40 minutes. That's not what you're paying for. You're paying for an experience. So make the appointment and turn up on time. It's an appointment like any other, with your bank, with your doctor, with a lawyer. You're not going to have goodwill with them if you don't turn up to your appointments on time. Tip number 14, take your time. Do not feel obliged. Just because you're there under an appointment does not mean that you are obliged to buy. I know that seems simple to say in theory. In practice, it can be a little more awkward. But once you've got that appointment, you've made an agreement together that you're going to take some time to do some shopping. Now, what I say in terms of taking your time is I always try and book the appointment at the beginning of the day. So around 10:30 when the boutique's open, or potentially a little bit closer to lunch. Then do the appointment, ask them to hold the bag for an hour, go away and have lunch, think about it, and have an appointment ready to come back after lunch, that I'm going to come back after lunch with my decision. You either tell them in person that you have decided that you want to think about it some more, or you tell them in person that you're ready to purchase the bag. If you do this, you are more inclined to get your sales associate to buy in and also to have champagne after lunch. Tip number 15, make sure that you love it and ask questions to deal with anything that is kind of that you're uncertain about. There's nothing worse than walking away going, oh, I should have asked this. I'm going to look silly if I ask that now. Ask those questions, because if you've gone through all of this, you get it home and you don't like it and you want to take it back, there's nothing more mortifying for both of you, for you and the sales associate, to go, oh God, like, we just put all this time in. Why didn't we address this issue at the time? So make sure that you have a clear mind when you leave the boutique. Tip number 16, don't get your heart set on a seasonal bag purchased from the boutique. It was really funny this morning. I'd written these notes on the plane, and this morning I saw that Sophie Shohet had done a video where she was talking about how you can't buy certain bags like Chanel Classic Flaps and hard to get bags if you don't have a sales associate relationship, and she was talking specifically about Chanel. Be realistic about this. This is when reaching out, obviously, if you've got an SA relationship, definitely express your interest and that you'd really like one of those pieces. But also be realistic in the fact that you might have to reach out to a personal shopper to source that piece for you. So that's somebody who shops on your behalf and charges you a percentage of the value of that item, to source it specifically for you, as opposed to a reseller who go and buy a whole bunch of stock and then sell it off at really crazy prices. If you purchase through a personal shopper, you don't have a refund policy generally, but if you're buying an in-demand item, the chances are that you're going to be able to recover the purchase price and the price that you paid to the personal shopper by reselling the bag through one of the purse forums or a consignment store. That's just the nature of these hot pieces. They do go for premium. So even though you can't return it, you kind of have the insurance policy of the fact that it's in demand, so you should be able to make your money back on that bag. Most of the time. It's not a guarantee, of course, but if it's in demand, most of the time you're going to get your money back. So I hope that this has been really helpful for you. Thanks to Annabelle for inspiring me to do this video. Most of all, like, you don't go through all of this not to enjoy it. Don't just sit it on the shelf and be too scared to use it. It makes me sad that so many people I know have had really poor experiences buying their first piece of luxury. something that should have been so wonderful, and it wasn't. And don't do that to yourself. Don't do it. I hope that these 16 tips are really helpful, that they help set you up for success and a really wonderful buying experience for a bag that you will use and you will love, and maybe it will just be the start of being a crazy bag lady like me. So if I've missed anything and you think there's some other tips that people should know, can you please pop them in the comments box down below, because we're all here to help each other. If you've liked this video and it's been helpful, please give me a thumbs up and let me know if you're one of those people that are considering buying their first designer handbag. I usually put out videos on Wednesdays and Sundays. I look forward to seeing you in my next one. If you want to make sure that you're there, just hit the subscribe button and you're guaranteed to see me pop up in your feed again. I'll see you in the next video. Bye!